Here we go with our big story. We're going to talk about bail tonight, as in the money people pay to get out of jail after they're arrested. Now, it might seem like a simple thing, but it's actually quite complicated and controversial. Let's start with the basics of how the bail system works. In Oregon, after someone's arrested, a judge can set a bail, also known as security. It's called that because the money is the court's security that the person who is arrested will actually show up for their court date. To get out of jail in Oregon, they typically pay only 10% of the bail to the court. So if the bail is $10,000, they pay $1,000 to get out. If it's $1 million, they pay $100,000 and so on. Other people can also pay this on the arrested person's behalf. We'll talk more about that in just a minute. If the person does not show up for court, they owe the entire amount. So it's an incentive you can see to show up. In Washington, when bail is set, the person has a choice of paying the full amount to the court, or they can hire a bail bondsman who charges them 10% of the bail. Then the bondsman guarantees the court that the person's going to show up or that the bondsman will pay the entire bail amount. And if the person doesn't show up for court, the bail bondsman then goes and tracks them down because they want their money back. Oregon is one of just a few states that does not have a bondsman. Now, back to that other part about other people paying bail for someone who's arrested. It's a routine when families pitch in for a loved one, but now there are some groups that are pooling their money with a social justice mission. That happened with a pretty high-profile case in Oregon just recently. This week, Malik Muhammad was sentenced to 10 years in prison for violence during the Portland protests in 2020. Prosecutors say he threw a Molotov cocktail at police, which carried an attempted murder charge. Before he could be arrested, he went back home to Indiana. Then last year, he was extradited to Oregon, and the judge set his bail at more than $2 million. Well, a group called the Portland Freedom Fund raised enough money to get him out of jail, $212,000. Their website says they are a volunteer-run abolitionist organization currently dedicated to reducing harms perpetuated against black, brown, and indigenous neighbors by the criminal justice system through posting bail so they can navigate their case from a position of freedom. Muhammad was released, but he wasn't out for long. A few days later, the feds arrested him on their own charges in the same case. Now, a similar situation happened in Washington state with a different bail fund group. The Northwest Community Bail Fund says their goal is to fight systemic racism in the criminal justice system. But they bailed out a man accused of a violent assault who then went on to murder someone. Here's Susanna Frame with our sister station in Seattle.
It's ripped my soul out of me.
Last June, Angie Araby of Louisiana lost her oldest child, Bradley. At the age of 31, he was stabbed to death at Seattle's City Hall Park. Angie said he was trying to get a fresh start in Seattle.
Well, we all are going to have emotional trauma probably forever.
That day in the park, police arrested suspect Michael Cedejo. 2 months earlier, he was arrested in the same park for allegedly assaulting a different victim, this 65-year-old man. You can see the bruises on his face and legs. After the assault in April, prosecutors asked a judge to keep Cedejo behind bars with $20,000 bail. They argued he should stay in jail because the state is concerned about the safety of the community if the defendant is released.
The prosecutor's office told the judges he was a danger. That word should have meant something to somebody, and it didn't. And I don't have a baby. I don't have my son.
Cedejo was on the street in June, the day of Araby's stabbing, after the judge reduced his bail to $5,000, and the nonprofit, the Northwest Community Bail Fund, paid the bill.
I miss my boy, and shame on them. Shame on them.
The Northwest Community Bail Fund is one of about 100 groups across the country that collect donations, then use the money to bail people out of jail while they're waiting for trial. The local fund chose to not go on camera, but they told me it's our state's cash bail system that's shameful and inequitable. If you're poor and can't afford bail, you stay locked up. But if you have means, you're out the door.
People are shocked. They didn't even know that such a fund existed.
Tiffany Attrell is a victim advocate for the King County Prosecuting Attorney's Office. She says she and her colleagues assumed the fund bailed people out of jail when the alleged crime was nonviolent. Up until a few weeks ago, the group's Facebook page read they post bail for people charged with low-level crimes. But that's not the case. Fund leaders say everyone has the right to get out of jail. Regardless of the crime, you're innocent until proven guilty. They also said the Facebook language was outdated.
That's what's concerning. They're not looking at the seriousness of the violent crime.
The fund bails people out of jails in King, Pierce, and Snohomish counties. Last year, they posted bail for 278 people in King County Superior Court cases. The King 5 investigators have found about half the charges involved non-violent crimes, such as theft of a motor vehicle, criminal trespass, and unlawful possession of a firearm. But others faced much more serious charges, including rape of a child in the first degree, armed robbery, and domestic violence assault.
There's flaws with the bail system as it is. At the same time, we can't have violent people out of jail.
In a 2019 domestic violence case, a Seattle man was charged with assaulting his girlfriend. Police say he was punishing her for going to work and leaving behind their crying infant. The Community Bail Fund paid $2,000 to get him out of jail. 3 weeks later, he was charged with a new crime, allegedly returning to his girlfriend's house and killing the baby.
Sometimes jail is the best place for the community to stay safe.
We have a system that's innocent until proven guilty. And the fact that we keep, millions of people a year pre-trial who have not been convicted is hugely problematic.
Dr. Jackie Helfgott is the director of Seattle University's Crime and Justice Research Center. She is not affiliated with the Northwest Bail Fund. She says the current bail system perpetuates racism. Because research shows people of color are more likely to be arrested, they're more likely to sit in jail, unable to post bail.
We have a system that is infused with systemic racism across the whole span of the system. The only people that should be detained pre-trial are people who present a serious public safety risk. Other than that, everyone else should be released, whether they have money or not.
And you're basing that on
the fact that people are innocent until proven guilty, and the fact that jail is a horrible place. I mean, it's worse than prison.
The bail fund's director says our cash bail system is harmful in many ways. They say it's a primary driver of mass incarceration. It intensifies racial and economic inequalities, and it puts people who need support the most at risk of losing their job, housing, and children.
There's no opportunity to succeed in a jail setting, so it just compounds the problems and keeps people in the system.
He left 2 kids behind. He loved his children. Very smart, intelligent young man that's gone.
Angie Araby says before posting bails, the Community Bail Fund should consider victims and what they have to say, or at least think hard about defendants charged with violent crimes.
And no one considered that. No one, from the judge all the way down, no one considered that. And it's horrible.
That was Susanna Frame reporting. The Community Bail Fund says it's important to remember that judges set bail amounts so everyone they bail out is legally eligible to go free. But that group also wants to get rid of the cash bail system entirely. Ironically, that could actually ensure that people charged with violent crimes, like the man they bailed out in Seattle, stays in jail. Let me explain. New Jersey and Alaska both have eliminated cash bail and replaced it with a new system. In those states, judges determine whether or not someone can be released from jail. They base their decision on things like the severity of the charges, the suspect's criminal history, and how likely they are to show up for court. That way, if someone who's rich is arrested for murder, they can't bail their way out of jail. And if someone who's poor is arrested for something minor, like a nonviolent drug charge, they don't sit in jail because they don't have the money to get out. Here in Oregon, the Multnomah County District Attorney ran on a platform of eliminating bail for those very reasons. Here's what he told us in a statement today. It doesn't matter to victims of crime if a defendant has $500 or not. What matters to them is their safety and the safety of the community that they live in. That is our first priority in the DA's office. I'm concerned with the danger that a person poses if released, both to the victim in the case and the public safety, not the level of financial resources they have available. My office continues to advocate to reduce reliance on cash bail and instead focus on detaining those individuals who pose the most significant threat of future criminality, regardless of their financial means. However, a system based on risk assessment for suspects, well, that might not be perfect either. California got rid of cash bail in 2018 and let judges decide whether to hold someone. But bail reform advocates had a problem with that, arguing the judges are biased and have too much power. They successfully led a campaign to overturn the law in 2020 and put things back the way they were. Although last year, the California Supreme Court brought back part of that newer law, eliminating cash bail for those who can't afford it. So, that is a lot to take in there. There are powerful arguments on both sides, and I know that this is a lightning rod issue for many. In the abstract, as I think about it, it does make sense to release someone before trial if they did not commit a violent crime. But then what about the serial car thief who goes right back into your neighborhood and steals another car and another and another? I guess they'll probably get arrested again, and then maybe they'll be held with more bail, and that might slow them down. And it does make sense to me to keep people locked up who are charged with violent crimes. But what about that argument of innocent until proven guilty? That troubles me. Anyone being held on bail does get a review or a hearing, and the judge learns whether they've been arrested before and did they show up for court when they were supposed to. If they didn't show, the bail amount often goes up. But would it really work here to have a system where people are either held or released, no bail involved? I got to tell you, I don't know. Is it working now to have outside groups pooling money to bail people out of jail based on the group's social justice beliefs? And are judges making bail higher because they know those groups are active and out there? I don't know the answer to that either. I guess there's a lot I don't know on this one. What about you? What are your thoughts? Should Oregon and Washington get rid of bail for those charged with crimes? Let me know what you think. Send me an email to thestory@kgw.com or call and leave a voicemail, 503-226-5090.